So this last and final presentation will be lower taxes and marriage incentive, a government approach to sustaining family life. And this will be delivered by no other than Ismail Ibn Ibrahim Esq. Thank you. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I am back again.
Yeah, sure.
So as I said, we'll keep it snappy. Can I have the first slide? And this is a very simple quote for you to think about. When love says I do, money often whispers, we will see. When two people are standing at the altar, most of the time, they are thinking about love, commitment, and then their shared future together. But you know money makes the world go round. And you know what they say, odo kakra, sika kakra. Next slide, please. And most of the time, even though you are thinking about love, for many couples, marriage vows are not tested by the absence of affection, or even in some instances, infidelity. Marriage vows are tested by debts, financial pressure, and what have you. And financial challenges can actually shake the foundation of any marriage. But then what has tax got to do with all of this? Let's see the next slide. Tax has a huge influence on financial challenges because of the impact it has on your purchasing power. What you would call your take-home pay, the money that's available for you to spend after you have been paid. You're paid a lump sum, and by the time you realize so much has been taken off of it and you're left with very little. But then what can government do about this? Next slide. And so we are asking whether government can reimagine its tax policy to support marriage and family life. And here, let me make it clear. We are not asking government to put in place measures for you to go and get married or to entice you to get married. Personally, I don't think I'll get married for any tax incentive. There are other things I'll look out for. That's the usual thing. Men will look at certain things physically. Tax incentive, them there. But then the whole idea is for government to support people who are married so that the financial challenges do not weigh down upon them. And why are we bothered? And this is because marriage serves as a framework for family life, upbringing of future generations, and it is a stabilizing institution that fosters mutual care, resource sharing, and social cohesion. Marriage essentially is the glue that holds communities together. And that's why we think government should play a role in this. Is government actually doing anything about it in the first place? But let's see how tax impacts your purchasing power. Next slide. Now this is the annual PAY, pay as you earn. How many of us have seen this before? Right, this is how you are taxed. You are taxed on levels. For those of you who are as rich as my seniors, your Kwame, your Kufu, and the rest, they might be hitting the 35% mark. But let's see a sample computation. Can you increase the size with the next slide? If you have a single household of 120,000 cedis, this is how you are going to go through taxation. The first level, nil, and what have you. But then at the end of the day, you are paying tax of 25,596. You are left with 94,404, and your effective tax rate is around 21%. So right off the top, government has taken this chunk out of the money you've earned from your work. Let's see a double income household of 240,000. Next slide. With a double income household, let's say you're making 240,000 a year, you're paying tax, please go back. You're paying tax shy of 56,000, and you're left with 184,000. So off the top, 23.17% of what you've earned has gone into taxes, and you are left with a little to manage your home affairs. Now let's go to the next slide. I'm being conservative by saying that tax is taking about 20% of your income, because as we've seen, there's 21%, there's 23%. So after the 20% has gone, you're left with money to deal with rent and utilities, food and transport, savings, education, and I haven't even added leisure to it. As they were saying that children have a right to leisure, it hasn't been even accounted for over here. Let's go to the next slide. Now, that was with direct taxes. So out of what is left after government has taken its 20%, indirect taxes are coming to hit the income as well. And just to be conservative as well, I'm only looking at VAT, Get Fund, NHIL, COVID. I'm not going to talk about how CST will impact the credit you are buying, the import duties you are paying if you decide to import goods and what have you. So you go to the store to buy goods. Let's go to the next slide. And if the item is worth 100 cedis, by the time you are done, you are paying an extra 21.9% on it. And that's also an extra chunk, or let's say an extra amount that the government is nibbling on what is left for you to spend. The last time I bought diapers, it was 870 cedis for Huggies, a box of Huggies. And that was without VAT. Imagine there's VAT on it. It goes even higher. Next slide. And this is for the standard rate, we can skip it. This is for the flat rate, we can skip it. Now, it's not as if government is not doing anything at all to support marriages. We have a system in place which is supporting marriages. And throughout the tax trainings I've done for entities, you realize that most HRs do not take this into consideration. So as an individual who has a dependent spouse and at least 2 dependent children, currently you're entitled to 1,200 cedis for the year. I don't know how many of you are taking advantage of this. You can show by hand. So at least you get 1,200. But my problem here and why I would make recommendations is 1,200 for the whole year. That's 100 cedis a month. And I told you about the Huggies diapers, 870 cedis. If my child is kind enough not to run through the diapers early, let's say I'm doing 4 changes or say 5 changes a day. That's like 20 days for a diaper of 100. Let's be conservative. Let's just say 1 box per month. So you're buying 12 boxes a year. What would 1,200 do, even for diapers? If you don't have money, that's so much pressure on your finances. An individual with disability is entitled to 25% of their accessible income. And so you get a rebate there. An individual who is 60 years of age and above is entitled to a personal relief of 1,500 cedis. So for those of you who are above 60, you can get 1,500, but for the whole year. The last time we checked the inflation before the change in government, I don't know where it was, but it was around 30-something-ish%. And this law was brought into being, I think, 3 years or 4 years ago or so. So if we are not in line with changing times and economic challenges, then what is 1,500 going to do for us? An individual sponsoring the education of a child, you're entitled to 600 cedis per child for up to 3 children. 600 for the whole year. These toddlers don't go on vacation. Their school fees is around at least 9,000 Ghana cedis a term, which is like 3 months. They are getting 600 for the whole year. We are happy with it, but not so happy with it. We wish government could do more. And that's why I'll make recommendations. Next slide. An individual with a dependent relative. And now we've talked about your spouse and your child. So we are looking at dependent relative that's old. So it could be your parent. You're entitled to 1,000 cedis for 2 dependent relatives. And then if you undergo training, you're entitled to some 2,000 cedis. And then there's also the mortgage relief. How many people even have the capacity to get a mortgage? How many people? For those working in the banks and other institutions, you are lucky. You can get a mortgage and then you get deductions for it. So you enjoy this relief. Next slide. But what are my recommendations? For the first thing, I'm asking that what we currently have should be reviewed to align with changing economic times. So that if you've given me 1,200 for the whole year 4 years ago, by this time it should change. Because the price of diapers 4 years ago is not the same today. So, and then rent relief. I mentioned the mortgage relief. And I asked how many of us have the capacity to get a mortgage? Not that many of us. But then when you get married, the first headache is rent. Where are you going to live? And legitimately so, it's an expense you are incurring in the marriage. And we have to go and come. Out of desperation, someone can be living in Kaswa and working at Adenta because of the price of rent. And so if you get a rent relief, it's not a bad idea for government to give us a rent relief. And then disabled child relief. My colleague Mamea talked about disabled children or special needs children. It is very expensive. I don't have that experience, but I imagine it will be very expensive. And so if you are giving disabled adults a relief, it's not far-fetched to give parents with disabled children a relief as well. And then nominal transportation relief. Again, with the same example about living in Kaswa, working at Adenta, which again is out of desperation. When you juma kakrebu aha or the koba, by the time you realize you are spending everything on transportation. I dare say that no government in the world is focused on encouraging employment in terms of incentivizing employment. We rather incentivize businesses. But then we need the workforce. And so if there's a way to incentivize the workforce to reduce the pressure on them, then we should do it. And one of it is the transportation. And now there's the example of the VAT I talked about with the diapers. And if you add VAT on it, that's an extra 21.9% or so. If some baby essentials could be exempted from VAT, at least we could soak the pressure. Or you don't agree? Exactly. Please keep moving so that the other ones can be for this one. Again, let's go. And then capital gains tax. In the legislative antecedent, Act 592, there was an exemption of capital gains tax between father and child, father and wife, and what have you. But in Act 896, it is silent on the transfer of assets to children. And so your father says, you are getting married, I'm giving you a house. He has to pay capital gains tax on the, we call the technical term realization, on the realization of the house. This is not motivating for a father or a sibling to give you an asset, or even a car, or a gift. The interesting thing about, and then the same thing applies to the gift tax as well. You're getting married, they give you a gift, you, the recipient of the gift, has to pay gift tax. In Act 896, there's no specific provision that exempts a gift between a father and a child. And so what currently happens is, your father says you're getting married, I'm giving you a car for transportation. And now you have to pay gift tax on that. Interestingly, if I give you the car and I say you can't pay the gift tax, so I'm paying the gift tax, that is another gift and that you have to pay tax on it. So in jurisdictions where they are strict with gift tax, you might end up selling the gift to pay for the tax. And so for gifts between father and child and what have you, my humble recommendation is let's bring back what was in Act 592, so that if there's a gift from a father to a child, especially at marriage, then it shouldn't be taxed. And then lastly, when you advise the cat, you advise the mouse. This is for the government. If we introduce joint filing of returns for a couple, it will be an administrative measure to prevent abuse. Because currently the law says if the husband takes the child relief, the wife cannot take it. But how do you check these things? I don't know if they have a system to check it, but it's a challenge. And so if you introduce the couple filing of returns, that would also be helpful. So these are my humble recommendations. I hope the wait was worth it for you guys, and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.